how to begin and how to end. And we're going to answer the later question in this pen to paper episode. Hey everyone, welcome to Pen to Paper. I'm Leah Lindman, author of the Canadian Reminiscence series, and today we're going to talk about how to end a chapter well. Now, this inspiration for this video came from a friend of mine. We have a private text chat group, and she asked the question, how do you end chapters well? Is there a method that you use? And funnily enough, it's not something that I really think about intentionally. It's been pretty instinctive for me, and I think that's just been the result of, writing 5 books, having written for more than 10 years and practicing that, and I guess having that intuition to knowing what sounds good and what feels right. But for those of you who may be coming onto the writing scene for the first time and writing a book, and you just don't have the feeling or the instinct yet of what makes a good solid chapter ending, well, this training is for you. So I'm going to give you the acronym CAG. I know it doesn't mean anything, but you're going to think of the letters C, A, and G. I can't do that. Anyways, so these are the 3 main ways to end a chapter, and I will give a few extra tips at the end to facilitate this process, but I hope that this just makes it more streamlined in terms of technique on how you can end a chapter if you don't feel like you have that instinct within you. So the first one is C, and most of you probably already know this. It means cliffhanger. Now, cliffhanger in terms of an action, or a cliffhanger in terms of something big and exciting has happened, and then the chapter stops and ends and you don't know what's going to come next. Those tend to be really good for action, suspense, heavy plot driven stories. However, there are some books that are not plot driven and there's maybe not a lot of action to them. They're quieter, perhaps more dramatic, more literary fiction styles. You can still do a cliffhanger, just not heavy on the action end. It would be more on the, perhaps there's this new mystery to be solved, or this character is acting out of character, and why is that? And perhaps at the end of that chapter, that's where the out of character thing happens, and you make the reader kind of like, oh, well, what's going to happen? Why are they acting that way? It doesn't make sense with who they are. So that would be a good way, kind of a quieter cliffhanger for the quieter books, but then you can do more that action-packed cliffhanger for those action-heavier books. Okay, the next letter is A, meaning like an action peak. So cliffhanger kind of goes like whoop whoop, right? But an action peak, you're just staying up there. So that tends to be, that tends to be where you are beginning a scene and a revelation has happened or some action is happening, and again, you can have something more action heavy or something more quieter heavy, literary heavy, but that's the beginning usually of a scene, and then the next chapter would usually tend to be the continuation of that scene, where you see that slow dropping of action, or the characters trying to figure out what's going to move the plot forward, versus a cliffhanger tends to be the end of a scene and the next chapter is the start of a scene, and it could be like a day later, a few hours later. But action peak is the beginning of scene, and then the next chapter continues the scene, and there may be more action peaks, or it may slowly go down in a and a good transition for that mode. So how can you make an action heavy peak? Okay, something happens. Let's say the car is spinning out of control, and that's how you end it. Like the character is running away from someone or running towards something. They jump in their car and they, I don't know, someone from the other side comes at them, they hit a tree, whatever, they start spinning out of control, and that's it. You just leave it there, and it keeps the reader like, oh, okay, I want to know what the end of that scene is. And then the next chapter, you continue that scene where they wake up maybe after their accident, or they're still trying to wrestle some control over the wheel to make sure that they don't die in a car accident. That would be an action heavy suggestion for an action peak. A literary, more quiet action peak would be perhaps a character coming to another character and making some sort of revelation, and then you stop there. That's where the chapter ends. So the next chapter begins with your protagonist reacting or responding to that revelation. So do you see how you can use cliffhangers and action peaks, even though they tend to be more action heavy or fast paced heavy with those kind of books, but you can still use them on the quieter side, and it doesn't need to be so action heavy. It could be more character heavy. So those are for C and A. The last one is G, which stands for growth. Sometimes, even in more action-paced books, it's good to just have those quieter moments and endings to chapters where you leave the reader not needing necessarily more, but just resting in what the character has learned and grown from the experience they just had. Let's stay in that chapter, because perhaps that chapter they learned something about themselves or something about another character, and you need that down moment to allow the character to mull over and wrestle what they've just learned. Or it could be the end of the chapter just adds more emotional resonance with that character. So yes, again, you would think, oh, that's more for literary fiction works or character-driven works, but instead you can still use that in an action-heavy book as well. And yet even an action-heavy book, it needs those quieter moments because even action-heavy books and plot-heavy books still have characters that you want your readers to relate to. So you do need some downtime. It cannot always be go, 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 go. Although you're probably going to have a lot less quieter moments in an action-heavy book than you would in a drama or literary fiction book. So you'll probably have maybe more characters that end on this growth pattern than you do action-heavy books. I would love to share an example for growth. You're like, okay, well, how does that work out? You know, it's kind of obvious. Cliffhanger or action peak endings, those are more obvious. How do you end on an emotional growth or emotional resonance ending for that chapter? Well, an amazing example is from War and Peace, and I can't take it out because I don't remember what chapter this was in, and yet it's toward the end of the book where you have two characters where they have been separated from each other for a long time under a lot of difficult circumstances, and when one character finds out that the other character is in the same area as they are, like they're both en route to fleeing from the French who are taking over Moscow, and one character is severely injured and the other character is helping the injured flee, and then that character who's not injured seeks out that long lost person in their life, and the ending of that chapter is complete gold. There's not that much dialogue, there's not that much description, but Leo Tolstoy just succinctly and beautifully brought the characters together in such a way that this is the resolution of not having been together for so long, and yet there's room for that to flourish. So that was an amazing example of those two characters coming together and having that emotional resonance. And you can see from that emotional resonance that both characters grew in ways that they would not have grown if they didn't have that meeting together. So those are the 3 ways to end your chapters: by cliffhangers, action peaks, or growth. Now, what are the best ways to utilize these 3? One way is to vary them. You don't always want to be ending on a cliffhanger or emotional resonance, growth, or action peaks. It just makes you very predictable, and that's not what you want to do with your readers. Obviously, your plot and your characters are going to have ebbs and flows, so you are going to use those different endings accordingly to bring about the best journey for your reader to go on. What else can I say about these different? As I said, you can have both plot, action heavy books using all those techniques, and quieter drama, literary fiction using all of those techniques. So, but I think at the end of the day, the more that you write, the more that you realize what works and what doesn't work. As I said, I never really paid attention to this until someone asked me. And then once they did, I was like, oh, how do I really end my chapters? Oh yeah, this is what I do. And this just tends to be the formula that I follow, and just instinct kind of takes over. So feel free to use these techniques, but don't use them as crutches. The more that you write, the more your instinct will take over, and you'll realize and you'll understand your flow and like what works and what doesn't work. But do use these techniques if you're a beginner, and if they help, that's great. But don't let them box you in. As a writer, you are there to grow in your writing, and if you break free of them at some point and you don't even think of them, that's okay too, because it means that you've been writing and you've been practicing and you're getting better. So I hope that's encouraging to you. And if you're not even in this sphere where you're using techniques, great. So I would love to hear down below, if you are a writer, what is maybe the technique that you usually fall on or use as a crutch? What technique would you like to improve? And I will see you next week.